Ben Ward, how are we, pal?
I'm very well, Gavin. Nice to see you, mate. How's things?
It's nice to be seen. It's nice to be seen. I think the last time we crossed paths was 2014, and you were in your dressing room holding a bottle of my single malt. If you recall.
Yeah, I mean, not much changes.
Yes. It was supposed to be a bottle of Jack Daniels. I'm not quite sure how it became a Glenmorangie or a Balvenie or whatever it was. But
We lucked out there because normally we have a bottle of Jack Daniels, a bottle of Jim Beam on the rider, but there was none available. So we said, well, see if you can get us a nice single malt. We ended up with this really expensive bottle, so it was a nice touch.
Good. Well, if anybody ever deserved it, big man, it was yourself. That was quite a show that year. But before we get to Orange Goblin, this podcast has kind of inadvertently found itself in the weeds with booking agents and managers, and it seems to be what the listeners enjoy more than just your usual. You're a singer in a band. Tell me about it. So let's do your booking agency. You were involved from 2015, 2016 United Talent Agency, and then now you've got Route One Booking. So tell us a wee bit about that and how that came about.
Well, what it was previous to that, I'd worked as a manager or a manager assistant at a company called 115, and I was helping this guy, Paul Loseby, great manager, helping him look after clients such as David Gilmour and Pink Floyd and Syd Barrett Estate. And following the release of Eulogy for the Damned in 2012, things sort of stepped up with Orange Goblin, and we got the opportunity to do that full time. So took that opportunity. We toured the world for a couple of years, but realised we couldn't really make ends meet. And when we came back from that, I remained good friends with Paul Ryan, who was obviously a renowned booking agent at it was called the Agency Group at the time. And he said to me, Ben, with your years of experience in touring and being in the band, he said, you must know every festival, every promoter, every venue across Europe and further afield. And I was like, yeah, I've got a fair bit of experience, and I know how to do a settle sheet at the end of the night. So I ended up being given a job as a booking agent at what was, as I say, at the time called the Agency Group in the London office. And I'd only been there 3 months when they got bought out by a huge US company called United Talent Agency, which most people are probably aware of. And I spent 5 years there booking artists such as Orange Goblin, obviously, but also like Fu Manchu, Corrosion Conformity, Crowbar, Raging Speedhorn for a while. Had a load of bands come and go. Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, The Sword, Massive Wagons, and I learned a lot there. It was a great experience for me. And then obviously this year with COVID, there hasn't been a live music business. So companies like that, they had to sort of, understandably reduce the amount of staff on their roster. So I was made redundant in September, and I just this is all I know how to do. So took the initiative. I'd already sort of met my business partner Jules Janowath as he was manager of this band King Creature, who I also represented, and we just discussed the idea of starting our own booking agency, something different, more hands-on, more sort of initiatives that cater to the client's needs, especially in a time like now where there's no live music and bands are looking at alternative ways to continue a revenue stream. So there's sort of social distance shows and things like that, but it's an exciting time. I've lived in London for 30 years, but now I'm taking the plunge and moving down to Cornwall in January and setting up the office down there. And it's exciting. I can't wait to get stuck into it.
I mean, I saw that I had a right good route around the website just to prepare for this interview, and it says a talent agency reimagined, which sounds like PR speak, but you're not a guy. You're not a guy for PR speak. You're a guy that tells it how it is. So what does reimagined mean? What's going to be different?
As I say, we want to offer more than just booking shows and tours for our clients. We can offer them. We've got our own venue down there, the Yard, that post-COVID is going to be a 2,000 capacity outdoor venue where we can host festivals, we can host one-off shows. We've got facilities for recording, mixing, mastering. We've got John Cornfield, renowned producer, that is a client, and working closely with him to facilitate artist needs in that department. We've got transport, we've got links to backline hire and things like that. So we're just looking at ways we can reduce bands' touring costs and encourage them to get on the road, basically.
Yeah. So more of an all-in-one package, so you can kind of accompany guys.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to offer, is like a full service agency. And I know most agencies, you know, cater to that sort of thing as well. Well, a few of them do, but you know, I just think that now more than ever, artists and bands need something extra to help them, you know, get a foot on the ladder. It's a really sort of inundated scene. There's bands everywhere, and it's not too hard to go out and book your own shows, but taking that next step to festival level and things like that, it's where you need a little bit of advice and someone with a bit of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the promoter side of that, it's as you say, there's bands absolutely everywhere, and it's difficult to cut through some of the noise. With myself and Paul, we pick up as much as we can for going to live gigs, but the nature of Damnation is you kind of need to be a pretty established act even to get on the bill. So it's not. There's only so much you can catch, and it takes someone like yourself who knows guys like me, or Vicky at Bloodstock, or Andy Coppin, or Cam Hack, to get these bands on and cut through some of the noise. Because by the time they've got to you, it's a wee bit of a, I don't want to use the word gatekeeping, but you're not taking someone on who's going to no show up for the show, or no fucking have a drum kit, or any of that nonsense.
Exactly.
I mean,
you look for bands with ambition, bands that want to go places, and obviously, you know, you and I should be at loggerheads over this. The agent promoter relationship is my job to convince you that these artists are worth you putting them on your stages. But you know, I think it's important that promoters and agents have a really good understanding, a good rapport with each other to help nurture this new exciting talent, especially within the UK, where we're looking down the barrel of Brexit, and our artists getting across to Europe is going to be a lot more complicated. So we need these homegrown bands to have homegrown platforms here in the UK that they can sort of be exposed and
nail on the head with that, Ben. And we'll get to that. I want to talk to you about that with Orange Goblin when we get to Orange Goblin. But a big frustration that I have and have had since the start of Damnation is the UK bands and our scene haven't broken through to the level of headliner. So what we have had is the same headliners that have always been there, the At the Gates, the Carcasses. Electric Wizard are that one, they're the one exclusion, I would suppose. But even there, Electric Wizard aren't a new band either. So it's been frustrating when you're seeing that's not the same in pop punk. It's not the same in indie. It's not the same in other. I'm looking at festivals that are very similar to Damnation in different genres, where these new bands, the Frank Carters and the Rattlesnakes, the Slaves, these bands come through very quickly and get to the top, can sell 3,000 tickets, where we don't have that. So without going into Orange Goblin, because we will get there, does that frustrate you that other UK bands haven't been able to make that jump?
Yeah, it does to a certain extent, because I know what you mean. There's underground bands that kind of seem to be content with remaining underground, but there are also underground bands that have made those steps. You look at the likes of Bring Me the Horizon and Bullet for My Valentine that have sort of made these huge steps, and you know, they did come from a kind of extreme metal background, so that's all power to them. It's great to see, but as you say, it's hard in this day and age for promoters like yourself to be able to take that risk for a band that aren't really worth hard tickets, and give them that platform to headline and pay the money that a headliner warrants.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm using Electric Wizard as an example, and they'd done very well for us in 2012. But the time I get back to, I don't know, there was a year that I was a sort of treble headliner with them in a Bath and Cult of Luna with Julie Christmas. I didn't really feel that Electric Wizard could do it twice. I mean, it would be another 3,000 sales. And I thought I'd rolled the dice with Electric Wizard and I'd won a watch on that one, but I didn't know if they would, in the space of 3 years, if the fans would be like, we're going to buy into that again. So you're right. It's nervy as a promoter, because you kind of just the second Carcass show never sold as well as the first Carcass show. You know, it's like once the fans have been there and done it at your event, they're like, right, what's next? And the problem is,
it's hard for you because you're always looking for something new to offer to your punters, and
from a very small pool.
Yeah. I mean, the Electric Wizard one's a good case in point, actually, because that's dear to my heart. Because obviously, when we started out with Orange Goblin around 94, 95, we did a lot of shows with Electric Wizard. And I remember playing shows at places like the George Robey in Finsbury Park, and there being about 4 or 5 people in attendance. And then, you know, forward 20 years, and you've got Electric Wizard almost selling out the Roundhouse and headlining things like Damnation. It's great to see that them bands can make that transition.
Yeah, and when I'm pointing at it, I think that is my one exception. That's that one.
Yeah.
I mean, My Dying Bride couldn't do it. Paradise Lost never managed it. Unfortunately, we've never done it with Orange Goblin. These bands that are at a very good level. But Electric Wizard, something happened with them that they just became that band that could headline Psycho Las Vegas and the huge tents at Hellfest and Wacken. That just never happened with the rest of the UK bands. Bullet for My Valentine and Bring Me Horizon aside.
For me, I think it was kind of, they were very clever with their strategy. They never overexposed themselves. They didn't tour and play a great deal. So when they did appear, it was a sort of a big occasion, and people were happy to finally get a chance to go and see Electric Wizard.
Yeah.
And they sort of nurtured their own reputation of being, you know, a dangerous band. Is it going to be a shambles? Are they going to be on form? And then there was a period where you didn't know what you was going to get with Electric Wizard. So it was, you know, an attraction when they did announce shows.
That's true. Luckily for Damnation, they've played Damnation 3 times, and luckily we've had the shows where they've shown up and known what songs are playing. Because I've also heard of those infamous shows where it's saying Black Mass and somebody's playing Funeralopolis in the background. So it's
But, I mean, I don't know how much of that is testament to the manager, because I know Mark Lewis looks after them, and he's done a great job of sort of putting them on the right stages. He's handled the band really, really well.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's forget Electric Wizard for a moment and talk more about your roster. You've got everybody on there. It's a strange roster. It's everywhere. So you've got Manchu and Discharge, like these absolute legends of the genres, and then you've got Video Nasties and Blind River that are just emerging to the scene. Was that a happy accident, or did you go out to sort of curate your own?
No, I think it's important for a booking agency to have a little bit of diversity and to have those established artists that you know you're going to sort of do decent business with, and also look out for what you are passionate about and what you feel is going to be successful in years to come. And there's no better feeling as a booking agent than to see a band go from those sort of grassroots levels and nurture them through to bigger stages and see their career progress. So that's what we hope to do with Route One, is take these artists from, you know, playing small 100-cap venues and seeing them go on to play sort of 1,000-cap rooms and big stages at festivals. So I mean, I was fortunate that a lot of my roster at Route One came with me from UTA, and you know, the separation I had with UTA was all amicable. It was all understandable. There was no hard feelings, and they were really generous in their letting me talk to my clients and things like that. And, you know, when I had conversations with the management, they were happy to follow me, because they were like, well, you know, we like what you do. You're our agent. It's, regardless of whether we're with United Talent Agency or Route One, it's the job you do. So, and it's just given me a lot more freedom to kind of explore these sort of new bands that are just coming out, and so try and nurture them. So, you know, we've got a good team in place at Route One, and we feel that we can develop artists' careers.
I take it what happens is if you're under the umbrella a major agency like United Talent, that if you see a band that you like in your hometown playing a pub, it's not quite so simple as just saying, I'm going to add them to the roster. I take it as a whole...
Exactly. Yeah, there's a process to go through, because, you know, an agency like UTA obviously has a reputation to uphold and wants to be seen to be looking after the biggest and the best. And sometimes, you know, it was a lot of hard work for me to convince people that this band was worth taking a punt. But that's what we are as booking agents and promoters. We have to be allowed to trust our own ears and make those decisions. And if people are sort of telling you, no, you can't work with that, and it's like, well, you know, what's the point of me being here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but then I take it for that negative to working with such a major agency. I suppose a positive in it, when I'm dealing with agencies that have got billions of staff, you get the email through for the agent, the Paul Rye, whatever, and there's 6 people included, because one does the art, one does the contract, one does the finance, one makes sure that you're tying up with. So that I assume that's not the case of Route One. You're going to be a sort of jack of all trades.
No, I mean, we're a 3-man team at the moment, and you know, I think that's all we need to take care of things. We've got everything's done in house. We can supply artwork. We take care of all our own accounts. We do, and like you say, you have some agencies where you do have that, and the bigger the band, the bigger the team surrounding them, And as you say, you can have someone that deals with the artwork, you've got someone that deals with their accounts, you've got someone that deals with, like, the tour managers copied in from an early stage, and it does make it a little bit messy. So we just want to keep things simple for our clients. We want to keep things simple for the promoters we work with, and just get back to the basics of what this industry is about, and that's entertainment and having fun.
Yeah. I spoke with, getting a booking agent on here is not that easy. I done the first 10 episodes, and the only guy that got on was happened to be Hayden Britland from Northern Music, who with Amin Ra and Cult of Luna, and fucking incredible roster. And I was making the point to him that for the fans' point of view, it's hard to understate how important a relationship between a booking agent and a promoter or an event is, because what happens is, I chased Pig Destroyer and Cult of Luna for years, and whoever was representing them at the time didn't give a shit. They didn't care about Damnation. I didn't care about what we were doing in England. I take it they were a European or an American-based agent at the time. And the second that one Pig Destroyer arrived with their agent, they were available. The next day, they could play Damnation, and Cult of Luna were with Hayden Britland. And straight away, they were available. So I'm looking at your roster, and I'm saying, fuck's sake, Mutoid Man and Voivod. So what does that mean? Yeah. Will they be playing Damnation 2022 now because I've got a relationship with you? And it's strange, because before you get into this game, you would never think that that's the case. You would never think that a band might never play your event because they might never hear about it because their agent doesn't care.
Yeah. That's why I think it's important for an agent to be passionate about the clients they work with and always want the best for them. And the best for them is for me to have those relationships with the promoters, so that, you know, I want everybody to have heard of Mutoid Man. I want everybody to see Discharge. I want to see everybody to see Voivod and all these bands, because I love them and I think everybody should hear them. So, you know, it's important that I know you, and I'm able to offer them to you to put them on your stage, or I'm able to offer them to Cam and Andy Copp in a download. And yeah, it's something you have to be involved with. You can't just sort of, you know, take a break and rest on your laurels. You've got to keep on to everybody all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what another agent listening to this would say from Europe or America, it's very easy for Ben Ward to say, oh, it's important to get my bands on Damnation because Ben Ward knows exactly what Damnation is and it's 2 minutes up the road. But I suppose your argument back would be, but you will care when the festival from Romania or the festival from Finland comes to you and says, is there any chance we can get Mutoid Man?
Yeah, I mean, exactly that, and it gets harder and harder each year because, as you know, the volume of festivals across Europe now is just insane.
Yeah,
and we used to be I mean, even going back to 2015 when I first became a booking agent, festival season was normally sort of start of June through to the end of August. But there's no such thing as festival season now. Festivals take place all year round, and you know that's great. It's great, but what a lot of people don't realise is there's a strategy involved in an artist's touring schedule and things like that. So, you know, when they're saying, we want to play this festival, we want to play that festival, we want to play this festival, especially if it's a US band or something, I can't have them coming over to Europe every month of the year because we have to have some sort of strategy for them to tour and make it financially viable. It's a complicated business. And as you said earlier, I don't think a lot of people really understand that sort of side of the booking agency or the booking agent and the job they do.
Yeah, it's just as simple as, oh, well, you like that band, we like that band, can that band happen? But then again, we get into some of the intricacies with Hayden as well, about sometimes a band only want to play in the dark. Like he said, like they only want to play in the dark. Their show's got a lighting package with it. Bloodstock might offer, but it might be a 2 p.m. slot in the main stage. Now, most bands would rip their hand off for that, but that's no good to Amin Ra, you know. So if you had, has there been some quirks that you've found dealing with bands? You're like, shit, I thought of getting this great slot at whacking or assault.
I've been fortunate that I haven't encountered anybody like that that's been so sort of specific about certain slots or things like that they've turned them down. I mean, I did book Coven for a while,
right?
And Coven, as you know, like one of the first satanic rock bands from the late '60s, and Jinx is sort of considered an icon of the whole kind of occult music, occult rock, and you know, she kind of specified that she always wanted to make sure that they play once the sun's gone down. She wants to make sure there's a coffin on stage for her to come on and be presented. They have to have like a human skull for her to carry onto the stage and all this sort of thing. And you're like, when you start sending these demands to a promoter, I can imagine they're rolling their eyes going, for fuck's sake, what's going on here? But other than that, I haven't really experienced anybody that's too picky. So I've been fortunate. Obviously, all my managers, they want me to push for the best slots that I can and the best sort of billing that we can get. But, you know, no one's been over the top so far.
And how do you feel about that? Because the billing's something that I take quite personally. I do with other agents that take it very personally. Some bands don't give a shit. Some bands are like, they're on it and they're done. So how do you, in your years of now being an agent, you get some festivals that are just like pains in the arse, but it just won't back down or what?
Yeah, it can be frustrating, but again, it's kind of a case by case thing, because a band may be bigger in one territory than they are in another. And, you know, sometimes I've had clients that have been booked to go and do a festival in the Netherlands or something, and their billing's below these bands I've never heard of. And you say to the promoter, how comes we're down there on the bill? And they're like, well, this band sell sort of thousands of tickets here. They might not make it anywhere else in Europe, but in this country, they're huge. And you're like, shit, yeah, you have to swallow these sort of things and have this kind of awareness.
Is that Volbeat effect? You know that nobody in the UK gives a shit about Volbeat, but you go to Europe and they're fucking headlining every major festival going, you know. So
it's surprising when you go to different territories how sort of the difference in bands' popularity is. It's crazy.
Yeah. So who should we be looking out for, like the up and coming bands? For I'm hearing quite a bit about Video Nasties. Am I right in thinking they're from your home city, Liverpool?
It's not my home city, but it's the football team, I suppose.
That's why I'm thinking that, because you're shouting about Liverpool every 10 minutes.
But Video Nasties were a band that I've been a fan of for a long time, since I first heard the first demo, and it's amazing. It's kind of like a mixture of, I don't know, Entombed, John Carpenter. There's like early Sepultura in there. There's bits of everything I love, really, and they're really cool guys. Obviously got experience of being in the underground for a while. Rick was in Iron Witch, and all played in bands previously. Stuart was in SSS, and I had them supporting Orange Goblin a couple of years ago when we played in Liverpool, and loved what they did. The album came out on APF Records last year. It's had earlier this year, I think, and it's had fantastic press. Definitely a band to look out for. So I'll be expecting an offer in the morning, mate. I just announced a new signing today, another Manchester band actually called Aggressive Perfecto, which is kind of in the same vein as Midnight, Toxic Holocaust, Hell Ripper, that sort of thing. Amazing young band. I like young bands that can sort of recreate that classic early 80s metal sound. It's reminiscent of Venom and Merciful Fate and early Slayer and that. So
I mean, I was put on to Hell Ripper only last week, and he's a fellow Scotsman. He's from up in Aberdeen, and I'm not the biggest thrash fan in the world, but there was something about Hell Ripper that I just thought was excellent. It was just, I was like, this is fucking. It sounded like so much fun.
Yeah, they supported Orange Goblin last year in our Christmas show at the Electric Ballroom in London.
Right.
It was a really eclectic lineup, because we had Naught, which is kind of gothic post-punk, dark wave sort of thing, and then we had Hell Ripper, this sort of really blackened thrash sort of thing, and then we had Discharge as main support, and then us. Yeah. So it was nice, and I like putting together bills like that. It's a bit eclectic, a little bit different.
Yeah. But, is that going to be important for you when you're putting packages together? Again, get back to the only other booking agent I've spoken to on this podcast so far, Hayden. He's very big on he's enslaved with High and Fire or the packages where you're not just Amin Ra were playing with Boris and Joe Quayle. You're not just dragging 200 black metal fans into the same audience.
I don't think many people really want to go to the show and see four bands that are almost exactly the same. We want to have a little
That's
bit of
what it used to be, though. 10 years ago, when you went to see a new metal package or whatever, it was new metal bands, or you get thrash bands, or you get black metal. And I think that it's now changing that you can go and get a wee bit of prog with thrash and death. And
because you've had so many bands that have kind of crossed those boundaries of the genres as well. Like you say, Enslaved's a good point. They started off as a classic black metal band, and then these days they're more prog and Aranci Pizzazu and stuff like that. And there's all these other bands that are kind of mixing stuff that 20 years ago you'd have never thought would have worked. black metal and prog is like it's kind of at loggerheads, but it does work, and now you can get these more eclectic bills that cater for that.
And those bands, when they're mixing these, they tend to be the more exciting bands. I mean, as you say, it's good to get the old throwback bands or people that just know how to have a bit of fun. But sometimes these bands, when they're mixing a couple of genres, that's the most interesting thing at an event.
One of the most exciting bands I've heard for a long time is about a young London band that I've just signed. It's a two-piece called Zetra. Right. And the only way I could describe it is it's like a cross between Type of Negative, My Bloody Valentine, and Gary Newman. It's so out there, but it works, and it's great. It's interesting. I mean, they dress in corpse paint with studs and bullet belts and all this thing, but it's incredible. It's visually interesting, and sonically, audibly, it's fucking brilliant. Great.
I mean, I'm excited about your roster. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it, and what the bands you've got in there, and giving it some attention. We'll get to how you feel about the scene across the world in the UK with Orange Goblin when we get that. But as an agent, how do you look at the scene in the UK? Do you feel it's quite healthy at the minute, or do you think it's still got to go some way to be like the rest of Europe and America?
I think it's very healthy at the moment. There's a lot of good bands around. Aside from the bands that I've just mentioned, I think it's great to see bands like Massive Wagons cracking the top 10 this year. You've got Those Damn Crows that did the same thing. You've got Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons' new album's just about to go into the top 40, I think. And there's a lot of young, exciting acts coming out that we should be proud of. So yeah, I think everything moves in. So even within the sort of underground doom metal circles, you've got new bands like Green Lung that are doing good things, and got Gravelines that I really like. And there's a whole load of different stuff that's exciting.
Yeah, and in terms of the events from a promoter's point of view, then how do you feel about the Bloodstocks, the Damnations, obviously up to the Downloads? We had Lord of the Lands up in Scotland. Do you think there's a circuit for bands in the UK also, that could do more?
There is, and I mean, we say about the volume of festivals, but that can only be a good thing to give these bands that opportunity to play with the likes of, your headliners, your Carcasses, your Creators, and things like that. So, the more we have of these, the better it is, and it gives every band an opportunity. They might not play all of them, but if they play one or two of them, it gives them a really good platform to expose themselves. And people, I mean, we're talking about Hell Ripper here, and 5 years ago, a band of that caliber, not many people would have heard of them, but they're kind of like well known within sort of metal circles within the UK now.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. So people like yourselves that have been going for as long as you have and have always sort of championed underground music, I doff my cap to you. I think it's great. And the same thing with Bloodstock, who do the whole metal to the masses thing, to kind of go out and physically go out there and unearth all this fresh and exciting UK talent. It's a great thing, I think.
Yeah. And in terms of, we had High Command. Listeners won't know that you're the man who booked High Command when it was United Talent Agency. So we've managed to, we're probably about 90% of the lineup we've managed to roll over to next year. So what's the situation? Will we have High Command available for 2021?
I believe so. I mean, I'm working on putting a touring schedule around that for them, because obviously with a band coming from Massachusetts in the US, they couldn't possibly fly over just to do one show at Damnation. But if I go out there and I can make it worth their while and get other shows in different territories for them, then I'm pretty confident it's going to happen, mate.
Good.
And I appreciate you sort of making that effort to roll it over to next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that
that's a band that I think people need to hear.
Yeah, I feel that their obligation. I mean, you do a deal with a band to come and play your festival, and then just fuck it off because the pandemic didn't suit. It's like it just didn't sit right. It didn't sit right with me.
I mean, I think that's quite admirable of a lot of the promoters across Europe have done that this year. They announced their lineups for 2020, then COVID hit and everything got cancelled. And the majority of them have, honoured that sort of lineup and said, we'll put you on next year. Because it would have been easy for them to say, well, that didn't happen that year. We need to start looking at what's relevant for 2021 now.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's a bit of fear because Damnation's now got a wee bit of freedom because we sell so many tickets in advance that bands like High Command or Devil Master or Iris, you've got no idea what they're going to sell in the UK. They might come across and be an app. They might knock it out the park, but they might also come across and have no profile. So you're a bit like, this is a wee bit dodgy now. But
again, that's why I appreciate people like yourselves taking that punt, because High Command have never played a show in the UK, so we don't know if people are going to come out and want to see the band. It could fall flat on its face, but I'm pretty confident it won't, and I think the Damnation crowd are going to love them.
I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident as well. A few people have asked. I mean, that's the first good sign that people who never knew anything about High Command listened to them once they were announced for what would have been this year's festival, and they're now saying, "Will we get them back?" I mean, a band that they never even knew existed. So that was a bit like right, good. And the same can be said about Devil Master. I'm still in the works with Devil Master, but I completely understand as well. American bands they've got their own shit show happening across there. And they're a bit like, right.
I've been talking to their agent Bruno about possibly putting Devil Master and High Command together to tour around that. So,
well, listen, I'm not trying to launch. I'm not an agent. I'm looking after my own event here, Ben.
we're already doing it, mate. It's right.
Good man. Right, let's talk about Orange Goblin. 25 years. So. Let's say, give me a highlight. Give me one of those moments where like this was the fucking greatest thing about being on Orange Goblin in those 25 years.
You know what? There's been a lot, and it's hard to pinpoint just one, because as you progress through your career, you sort of experience one of those moments. You think, can't get better than this, and then something else happens, and it does. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably opt for opening the main stage at Ozfest in California in 2017, which was something we'd never dreamed of. Obviously, it's no secret that Orange Goblin are Black Sabbath fans, so Ozzy Osbourne's a little bit of a hero to us.
Yeah.
And to have Sharon Osbourne's office contact me out of the blue and say, look, would you guys be up for coming over and we'll fly you out to open the main stage at Ozfest? We're like, what? Really? And yeah, it was incredible. And an experience I'll never forget.
And how was that? Just to pause with the Ozfest. So you go across there, and tell me a bit about the day. So you're getting the production. The American production gets quite badly slaughtered on this podcast. There's a lot of agents, a lot of bands, a lot of people who say America don't treat you well. You go there and it's the circuit's poor. Artists don't get the respect they deserve. So there you are. You're talking about highlight. Let's give the Americans some praise.
I've experienced the best of both worlds in the US. I mean, first time we toured the US with Alabama Thunder Pushing in 2002, we were playing in venues. We was turning up at venues on that tour, and the fucking promoters or the bar didn't even know we were due to be there. So we'd walk in, there's no rider. You'd be lucky if you get 2 beer tickets. There's no dressing room. There's no stage. You're like, what the fuck are we doing here? And, you know, it's bad. But to be fair to Ozfest, the production there was incredible, and we got really well looked after. But I mean, I guess they have to when you got Ozzy Osbourne on the bill, and Black Label Society, and Prophets of Rage, and all these huge bands. So yeah, we were well looked after there. I mean, there have been other places in America where we haven't been quite so well looked after. But the bigger the festival, the more chance there is that the production is going to be pretty decent. I mean, Maryland Death Fest was great. That was really well organised, and we had a great time there. Other highlights. I mean, just for us playing the main stage at Download in 2000 and what year was that? 2017, I think it was. Can't remember now, but that was a highlight because obviously we grew up watching the likes of Iron Maiden and AC/DC headline Monsters of Rock at Donington. So to be there on that what's considered hallowed ground, that was pretty cool. I'm going to have to say playing at Damnation, isn't I?
Well, you can do. I mean, end of the day, you can do. So, but let's
had a great time at Damnation. So
let's be fair, Ben. There. You played frontman when you have hit it out the park. When you played with both 2007 and 2014, when you guys played, you were both main stage. You were both quite high up, sporting creator, and then a year with Bolt Thrower and St. Vitus. Yeah. So, I mean, they came across as a promoter and a fan watching like absolutely sublime shows. But obviously, as far as I'm concerned, you're doing that every night of your life.
No, I mean, those shows were pretty special. I mean, I particularly remember sort of being sort of in awe of Creator because bumped into Miller on the stairs and sort of like, oh, yeah, nice to meet you. I was like, loved your band for years. Something he must get sort of a million times a day. But one thing that sticks in my memory about that first show was our ex-guitarist Pete, his brother had come with us to crew for us that day.
Right.
And just before we went on stage, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Joe, our guitarist, was desperate for a piss before we went on stage. But he didn't have time to go to the toilet. So he took a pint glass in the dressing room, had a piss in it, and just put it on top of this cabinet so that no one would find it, and put it out of the way. With that, our guitar tech, Jason, came into the dressing room, thought it was his beer, picked it up and took a massive gulp from it. Everybody, what are you doing? He's like, "Ah." Picking pubes out of his teeth for the next 3 hours. So yeah, that sticks in my memory about that festival. But yeah, there's been a lot of highlights throughout the career of Orange Goblin, I think. I mean, going and playing Wembley Arena, supporting Alice Cooper and Dio back in 2000 was pretty special, and playing the main stage at Bloodstock as well. It's been great.
You've done a lot. You've done a lot, man. Before, I'm going to ask you about some of the worst things that have happened in 25 years, but I just want to say that there was a picture of you at Damnation 2007, sitting on the barrier where the security take the crowd suffers, and you got a fucking bottle of Jack Daniels and a bottle of wine, looking like the happiest. I mean, I think you were watching. You'd played, so you could only be watching Amen or Creator. I take it was Creator, and you looked like the happiest guy in the venue, and it made me think, because sometimes you're a bit like, these bands are just. This is humdrum. This is what these guys do. They're rock stars, but you look like the happiest fan in the building.
That's I've always loved about it, especially playing festivals, is because you get to go along, you do your job, you get your show out of the way, and then you get to watch all the bands that you've grown up loving or excited about at the time. So it's a win-win situation, isn't it? You're getting paid money to play an amazing festival. You get to hang out with your mates all day, drink free beer and wine and whiskey and whatever, and get to see all the bands you love.
Were you able to hang about for the 2014 one and watch Bolt Thrower?
I don't think we could, because we was on tour with St. Vitus at the time, so we had to get back on the bus, I think, and have to shoot off. So there's a reason that we weren't hanging around. So if Carl Willis is watching, I apologise, mate.
Yeah.
But
it became more, because at the end of the day, that was a special event. Anybody had never played a UK festival and agreed to do Damnation, but then with the passing of the drummer, it became sort of, we're never going to do it again. It put a wee bit of an exclamation mark on that show, and how much it means to the Bolt Thrower fans. So it was just so 25 years. Tell me about some of the absolute moments where you're like, I do not want to be doing this shit.
I mean, when you turn up at venues in places like Bozeman, Montana, and as I say, it's one of those places they don't even know you're playing. There's no rider. There's no one going to be there. We've turned up at places where there's just been like a far right Nazi skinhead audience, and we're like, oh, what's going on here? It's. I can't think of any that have been that bad. I mean, we played a show in San Antonio where the promoter greeted us upon arrival and told us that he'd just lost his liquor license, so they weren't allowed to sell beer in the venue that night. No one could drink in the venue, and they weren't going to be able to pay us the full fee. They'd have to wire it to our agent. We sounded dodgy, so we just sort of got back in the van and said, "No, this ain't for us. We'll give it a miss tonight." And with that, sort of, they kind of lift the shirt and just show you that they're holding a gun in the waist of their trousers, and he's like, "Oh, you're playing tonight?" And we're like, "All right, okay. Where do we load it?" Things like that. So, obviously, Pete leaving the band in 2002 after that first US tour was a kind of low point for us, and he wanted to pursue his career in art and everything, but it never really stopped us. And if anything, I think it kind of galvanized us and made us stronger as a unit. And when we became a four-piece, we never really looked back.
Yeah. I did an interview that you'd done at Metal Hammer Kerrang. I think it was a decade ago, and it may have been a cover feature, and it was pretty much you guys saying, "This is it. We're going to do this full time. We're going to have a fucking stab at it." Do you recall that? And what happened at the end?
It was the Terrorizer magazine. It was the first UK magazine to give us a front cover, and the whole story around it was, like I said earlier, off the back of the Eulogy for the Damned album, which was kind of our biggest success to date. We made the plunge to go full time and have a crack at touring the world, and God knows we had a really good crack at it. That first year in 2013, we did something like 161 shows, and was pretty much away for 9 months of the year. And we did Soundwave Festival across Australia, which was an amazing experience. Then we flew from Perth straight to Boston, Massachusetts to start an 8-week tour of North America with Clutch. We came home, we did 3 months in Europe, then went back and did another headline tour across the USA, came back and did the Airborne tour in the UK, and it was just madness, but it was great fun. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if we could have made a living out of it, I'd have loved to have carried on, but it just weren't financially viable at the age we all were, because we've all got kids, we've all got wives and mortgages and things like that. So, you know, it's great fun. And I think the reason that we took the plunge when we did was because we had that opportunity to do all those shows that year. And if we hadn't done it, we'd have probably been forever kicking ourselves going,
yeah,
oh, do you know what? I wish we'd have given it a go at least. But at least now we can say, you know, we tried, we had fun, it was a great crack, and, you know, no regrets. No regrets.
I think it'll just be utterly depressing for other artists, because there's no two ways about it. Orange Goblin are a sizable act. I mean, these are the guys that will get offers across the world. So you're looking at Orange Goblin, especially if you don't really know much about the scene, and go like, they guys don't have jobs as well. I mean, that's clearly their job. So I mean, how far off were you? I mean, was it just never going to be achievable, or?
I think it could have been achievable given another couple of years, but we obviously didn't have another couple of years with that sort of situation at home. So we had to make a decision. And the thing is, you know, I'm not going to lie, we got decent money for the tours and the shows that we did. But with that, there also comes a lot of expense as well when you're looking at visas for America and flights here and there and backline hire and transport and crew wages and things like that. So it all takes its toll and it eats away at your earnings. So any band could make it if they've got the right sort of infrastructure in place. You've got to be sensible with the crew you take, the sort of the travel you do, just being prepared with your merchandise, being organised, and have everything lined up.
Yeah, you can. We'll go full circle back to the sort of Cathedral and Electric Wizard. So you're coming up in that scene, and as I say, there's not many bands that cracked it. Then Electric Wizard, weirdly, because if you were ever looking at a route map or how to do it, you would say, don't do it like Electric Wizard. I mean, like do it like Bring It Right up from Valentine and have this infrastructure in place and be professional as fuck and just batter everybody with your brand. Where Electric Wizard are just a fucking a train off the tracks, but that's the attraction, as you say. You're never quite there's a sense of, but
I mean, essentially. All the bands you mentioned, it's hard, no matter what sort of money you're making, it's still essentially underground music that isn't going to cross. You're not going to get radio play. No matter how many tickets Electric Wizard sell in the live sort of arenas and things, they're not going to get Radio 1 radio play. So they're not going to cross over and become the next Iron Maiden or the next Judas Priest or something, or next Metallica. So it's breaking out of that underground is the difficult thing. And like I say, Orange Goblin made decent money, but we didn't make enough money. And there's very few bands. Clutch is a good example that do. They managed to sort of tour successfully, but that's because they're really well organised and have everything in place, as do like Queens of the Stone Age, who came from the kind of desert scene and the stoner rock scene, and then made the jump to becoming a really sort of big popular act. So, you know, it's possible.
It's funny that you mentioned Clutch, because my next band I was coming to, like you're not a better guy. You can tell with this conversation, like you're looking at Electric Wizard and say, fuck, that should have been us headlining Psycho Las Vegas or that stage at Hellfest.
Don't get me wrong.
But Clutch are you. I mean, why aren't Orange Goblin Clutch? You know what I mean? Is there ever any time, not that you sat in there, there's any bitterness towards Clutch per se, but you're saying like, why did we not make that connect? It just took us to the couple of thousand tickets a show.
I think, you know, I think we'd all be the first to admit that in the early days we was a bit naive. We was a little bit unprofessional, actually quite a lot unprofessional. We didn't sort of pay enough attention to the importance of having proper management, proper booking agent, that sort of thing. And that's what's helped me in my career, is that I learned from their mistakes. And now I sort of realise what is important. So, you know, as I said, I've got no regrets about Orange Goblin. Everything happens for a reason. I'm fiercely proud of everything we've achieved, and I could easily look back and say, "Oh, fucking hell! If only we did that, we could have been this size now."
Yeah.
But you know, the following we have, the output we have, I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Listen, but I don't want any. I don't want any of this conversation like the point of this podcast. I don't want to come on and fanboy you for an hour. I'm not. I mean, saying, "Oh my God,
no.
Orange Goblin, Orange Goblin." But I fully understand and appreciate that the career you've had is what other bands look at and say, "We wish we could be Orange Goblin and play all these main stage as well." So don't. Although I'm trying to get in about the weeds of your career and what happened and what didn't happen, I fully appreciate how successful you guys have been and how good you've been, what you've done. Because for 25 years, and you're still a name that you could book Orange Goblin for next year's Damnation. You're gonna sell tickets for Damnation. You're gonna sell tickets for Bloodstock. You sell
get that in writing.
everybody wants it right. We don't do contracts. We're the DIYs.
It's a nice position that we are in that position now. As you say, because we can't tour as strenuously as we used to, we can pick and choose the festivals we do, the tours we do, and we know that we'll have a decent turn up. So it's nice, and that's testament to the hard work we've put in, because it has been a lot of hard work. It's been a lot of jobs that we've had to give in over the years, a lot of sacrifices we've made in our personal lives and things like that. So yeah, it's all worthwhile.
Yeah. Do you have territories that you look forward to going to? Areas you're like, yes, this is going to be absolute. Everybody keeps mentioning Japan when I ask this question. But you have places you go like, fucking cannot wait. And likewise, do you have places you go and say, fuck me, I do not want to go there?
Well, yeah, I'd say Japan myself. We've only played there once. We went there in 1999 supporting Cathedral. And I'm not going to lie, it was like being in the Beatles for 5 days. I mean, it was crazy. We was getting greeted at the train station by fans getting autographs and photos. And by the time we got to the hotel, they had these photos printed out and getting us to sign them. It was crazy. But there's nowhere I really dread. Nowhere we've been this. I mean, there's parts of North America that I wouldn't be too keen to have to go back to, but I don't want to sort of say anywhere. But
have you got a level now with the band with Orange Goblin that you go there and there isn't that fucking guy with a gun in Montana or whatever the hell you are you now at that stage you can be pretty confident you arrive in North America, you're going to have a decent tour?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a progression from the first US tour in 2002, where we had to do 38 shows in 39 days, playing every dive bar across America. So last year we toured across America and did 6 shows where we can fly from New York to Chicago, fly from Chicago down to Texas and Texas to LA. And it was nice to be in a position that we could do that.
Yeah, but there's nowhere that you're saying, fuck, we're not doing that. It's just that'll take us back to feeling like we're 2002 again.
Nah. I mean, with Orange Goblin, none of us got any airs and graces. We're not afraid to sort of get our hands dirty and go back and play the smaller venues as well, because it's where we came from, and we don't ever want to forget that. Yeah.
Is it this interview, it reminds me quite a bit with the interview I've done with Dave Hunt from Anunnathrach, and I think there's a lot of similarities in the bands in the sense that if somebody was to say to me, well, what bands would you have that you think you wish they could bust through at that headline level? Orange Goblin and Anunnathrach are 2 bands that I see playing major stages across the world, but not in the UK. And the question I want to ask is, when I spoke to Dave, he felt there was a level of disrespect, and I'd seen it as well from some bands towards his band, Cannibal Corpse, Cataclysm. They never gave Nathrak the respect they deserved. They felt that they should definitely be billed above them or whatever. Do you see that in your scene, or do people with 25 years in, people just understand where Orange Goblin are in the scene?
I don't think I've really seen much of that kind of disrespect. I mean, it's obviously out there. I've heard comments from people just sort of discarding us as sort of a Cathedral rip-off or a Black Sabbath clone and that sort of thing. But that's people's opinion. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm 6'5" and I don't want to fucking upset me.
Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to get in a fight with Dave Hunt either. He looks like a Tesco bouncer. But
he's a nice guy though, Dave.
He is a very nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So I was listening to, you had a short podcast that you put up on the Orange Goblin site. There was a couple of wee bits that kind of caught me out. One was the record label situation. You spoke very warmly of Rise Above, and then when you were talking about Candlelight, you said, we're just seeing that deal out. And I didn't know if that was just how you were thinking at the time, or there was any sort of that didn't go the way you wanted to go with that record deal.
I mean, no disrespect to Candlelight. It was a great record label for us to be on. They did a great job for us with Eulogy for the Damned. As I say, it was our most successful record. Back from the Abyss was a suitable follow-up, and then we delivered Wolf Bites Back with them in 2018, and they were in a sort of a progressive stage where they'd gone from being Candlelight Records to being Candlelight as part of Spine Farm and Universal. So I think we went from being sort of a big fish in a small pond to being the small fish in a very big pond. And when the Wolf Bites Back came out, it was very similar period to the new Ghost album, and they had a lot of really big releases that in that period. I think Rammstein released an album as well, and we kind of got lost in the sort of mix of things and didn't really get the marketing and promotion that we'd have liked.
Yeah.
But you know, these things happen. And when I said like we've just come out of that deal, it's because you know that's a fact. We delivered our 3 albums for them, and we're currently free agents, and we've spoken to a few labels, and we're discussing things, but we're not in a rush to write anything new at the moment. Obviously, this year is supposed to be our 25-year anniversary, and you know there was plans for us to play a lot of summer festivals and get across Europe, and then finish the year with this big UK tour in December, which isn't happening now. We've rescheduled for next year, but we're sort of looking at alternative things to make this year special, and we've got these live stream shows coming up. I mean, the biggest thing for our point of view this year is the fact that our bass player Martin's leaving in December after these live stream shows, which is very sad because Martin found a member and he's been there 25 years of service, and it's going to be weird without him.
Yeah, absolutely. The second part to that sort of question that came for that podcast is, unless I picked you up wrong, when you were talking about the record, you said it'd be nice to do one last record. Is it? Then I googled, like, is there something about Orange Goblin going anywhere? Is this that I never knew about? Yeah. So did I pick you up wrong, or do you feel you've got one more record in the tank and then it's going to be done?
I don't think we've still got plenty to offer. There's no reason. I mean, Martin's departing, but we've already got a replacement lined up. That's going to be unveiled soon. So, and we're already talking about, you know, possibility of recording new stuff with a new bass player and get to writing stuff next year. The reason it hasn't happened so far, is just because, you know, this year was supposed to be a celebration of those 25 years, and we was going to be playing material from across our whole back catalogue. So writing new material didn't really cross our minds this year. But once we get this out of the way and the new bass player settled in, then yeah, we'll definitely start looking at writing again. That's you know, the reason you form a band in the first place is to be creative and make music that you want to hear. So once that dries up and it takes the fun out of it, then there's no point doing it.
Absolutely. That's good news for all concerned. As I say, maybe, I don't know if I picked you up wrong in that interview, or if it was just, no. Yeah, you meant that term like, I'll get to the next record, no, like that would be your final one.
Gav, you've no need to apologise. I mean, we do come across as miserable bastards in a lot of the interviews and a lot of the stuff we do, so it's perfectly understandable if you think, fucking hell, they sound like they've had enough.
Aye. And to wrap this up then, let's chat about the live streams. Obviously, that isn't what you wanted. That wasn't your first choice. You'd have loved to have been in 2 packed London shows. You're the kind of guy that feeds off the audience. You're part of it. Being a big ass frontman is kind of your thing. So tell me about these live streams and what you want to do with them.
I took the idea. Sorry, you're frozen there, mate.
I think the reception goes. So just tell me about the live streams.
Yeah, I mean, I weren't too keen on the idea when it first came about. I was still sort of clinging on to the faint hope that these dates in December would take place, but obviously it wasn't to be. And then we realised, right, we've got to do something. So we originally set up these shows to take place at the Dome in London, with Old Empire promoting and Hotel Radio doing these live streams, so you can watch it anywhere in the world. But what I didn't like about the idea at first was, as you say, there's only going to be sort of limited capacity, all sitting down around tables, and that's not the sort of environment that I envision Orange Goblin playing. I want the crowd up close and personal and interacting with them. So, but then I realised that, you know, this is what there is at the moment. This is what we've got to do, and it wouldn't be fair for me to hold the rest of the band back from doing these shows just for my own personal sort of satisfaction on stage.
Yeah.
The more I got sort of come around to the idea, I thought, well, you know, it's something new, it's a new challenge, and it's something I'm now looking forward to. Especially the kind of ideas behind it is doing 2 completely different sets each night. First night focusing on those first 5 albums that we did with Rise Above. Second night focusing on the later albums that we did with Sanctuary and Candlelight. So it's nice to go back and sort of explore a lot of material that we haven't played for God knows how many years. And now with Martin announcing his sort of departure from the band, it's added another level of significance. So really looking forward to it now. And obviously disappointed that the original dates that were planned in November on the 15th and 16th didn't take place because of the national lockdown and the venue being unable to open. But we've managed to reschedule it for Friday the 18th and Saturday the 19th of December. And ironically, those were the 2 nights that we was due to be playing in London at the Underworld as part of the UK tour. So, you know, what goes around.
It's all came together nicely. Is there something that some bands have been quite inventive? Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, for example, they had the screens on wherever they were playing. And have you got any
Academy, right?
Yeah. You get ideas for what you want to do? Is it going to be sort of spitting sawdust, like this is what you're getting? It's all about the music.
I mean, we have upped our production a little bit in recent years. It's no longer just 4 guys shambling on stage and getting on with it. We put a little bit of thought into the set list so we can get a lighting show in place, and we've got a really good sound man that does a great job for us. But there's nothing too extravagant. You're not going to see a Rammstein show and lasers and everything. You're not going to get an Alan Partridge Pink Floyd show for 50 quid. So, you know, it's going to be Orange Goblin essentially, but you know, it's going to be visually entertaining as well, I'd like to think.
Aye, magic, big man. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Anything else you want to add before we leave you?
No, just, you know, if people want to tune in and watch those live stream shows, then you can get tickets at oldempire.com and hotelradio.com. I think it's I don't know the websites, but check it out. It's all on the Orange Goblin socials.
I'm pretty sure it's Hotel Radio, but we'll get a link underneath the video anyway. It's been a pleasure, big man. Thanks very much for talking to us. All right. Speak to you soon.
Absolute pleasure talking to you as well, Gav. Cheers, mate. I'll be on the email in the morning.